Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your Manchester United versus Liverpool preview. We're back, we're bloody well back. Football is back properly. Man United are back and they're back in the trenches because I tell you what, it doesn't get much more difficult than this. Gonna cough. I'm panicking. No, it doesn't get much more difficult than this. It's such a difficult game for United, our biggest rival in their backyard, and yet there is some positivity. I'm going to tell you now, I've changed my opinion on what the score will be. I was pontificating a draw. Let me just tell you I've changed that. We'll also be showing you what I predict Amorim will do at the weekend. Is it a big risk? Is it the right thing to do? We'll talk about that in a moment as well. Plus, we've got all the fallout and all the reaction to the news from today. Obviously, Ben Jacobs has said some interesting stuff. But we want to get into Liverpool against Man United first. Let me just get over that little tickle in the throat. But before we get into that, we're sponsored by Boohoo Man tonight. So let me tell you, we've got a bit of Man United trivia for you to come your way. But before we do that, today's show is sponsored by Boohoo Man, which means you can get 10% off by using the code Goldbridge on their website, boohooman.com. You can get all sorts of clothing there for the autumn season, whether it's jackets, shackets, t-shirts, underwear, gym wear, Netflix and chill wear. You can get it all at Boohoo Man at fantastically reasonable prices. If they've got 40% off, you can still use the code Goldbridge. That will work on top of that discount as well. So check it out for the extra discount. Link in the description or scan the QR code. And as always, Boohoo Man have got us a little bit of trivia. Now, I haven't looked at who this is actually yet, so I'll play along. I was born on December the 8th, 1996 in Lancaster. I joined Manchester United's academy when I was just 5. I think I know. I broke into the United first team in 2017, making my senior debut under Jose Mourinho. I spent over 20 years at United, making more than 250 appearances, scoring 19 goals and being part of the squad that won the FA Cup in 2016. In 2024, I made the move to Napoli. I'm primarily a midfielder, known for my ability to score goals from runs into the box, headers and volleys, as well as my physical defensive play and aerial ability. And although born in England, I'm eligible to play for Scotland. It's, of course, Scooby-Doo himself. It's Scott McTominay. He's not a midfielder. He's not a midfielder. He's a bloody number 10. That's what he's good at. That's what he is. Anyway, big thank you to Boohoo Man, criticising one of their questions. Don't forget to use the code Goldbridge. Links in the description. Scan the QR code and get that extra 10% off. Big shout out to them. Okay, let's do this. Man United Liverpool preview first of all. I think we're going to lose. I'm not messing about. I'm going to go with a loss. And I never do this, but I play win, lose or draw against Robbie on Friday. And I'm losing. And I've realised that he tends to get ahead. Basically, we get a point for every result we get right. And he's always 1 or 2 points ahead of me because he supports Arsenal and I support United. And they win most weeks and Man United don't. So I've got to start getting points back. I've got to start being realistic here. And I think Man United are going to lose. And you know what? There's a little bit of reverse psychology here. But, you know, I think we're going to lose. I think, you know, Liverpool are the favourites. I was looking at and I have got the stats to back it up before I talk about the team he's going to pick. But the reason I think we're going to lose is because I've actually done my research, right? Liverpool have played 3 games at home this season and they've won all 3. They're third in the league when it comes to home form. Man United are 4th from bottom for away form. We haven't won a game. We've only scored 2 goals away from home. We've lost 2 and we've drawn 1. So perfect home record against crap away record. It's a worry. That's a worry in itself. I also think that Liverpool are sort of getting a little bit of false news against them. They're number 1 in the league for shots. Yes, we're number 1 for XG, but they're still number 1 in the league for shots. They're number 2 behind Arsenal for touches in the penalty box. So I just see, I don't necessarily see a bounce back, but I think there is a little bit of naivety going into this game. They are still the champions of England. They still have a ridiculous midfield. Gravenberch, McAllister, Szoboszlai, they can play Wirtz in there. Their midfield is really good, and that's why I think we're going to lose, because I don't like our midfield. I don't trust our midfield. I also think United in a cauldron tend to hide. You look at Brentford, we couldn't deal with that atmosphere. This is away from home, we couldn't deal with Man City. I'm worried about this game. So logically, the brain says we will lose the game. However, I like that. I like that. I don't mind that. I don't mind that. Put the pressure onto them. You know, they've lost 3 games in a row. They're at home. They've got to bounce back. Arsenal are putting pressure on them for the title. We're rolling into town, their biggest rival. They need to bounce back. They're expecting to bounce back. It's the old enemy, Man United. Let's go out there and beat them 3 or 4-0. We've just got to go there and get through the first 20 minutes. We can't concede early. I'd say we've got to get through the first half an hour, to be fair, because we got through the first 20 minutes at the Etihad and then we conceded in the next 10 minutes. But we just got to go there and play organised. You know, this is Liverpool. I know I say we need performance and results. Not at Anfield. I have seen us go to Anfield and play very, very well. Who remembers that Van Gaal performance? But I'm not expecting a good performance here. It's straight after the international break. It's away. This is about defending well and countering. And, you know, I can deal with that. So the way that we get a result from this game is we go, we defend, and we counter. And that's what we've got to do. And we're capable of doing that. And that might lead to a shock win. It might get us a point. But I'm sending Liverpool into this as favourites. I think they will win. United have to go into... And it's the right mentality for Man United to go into. You know, they need to know Liverpool are favourites, and a lot of people think Liverpool are going to win, and they need to empower and grab that opinion and prove people wrong. That's basically Man United's season. Amorim and Man United players have got to prove people wrong. You're 10th in the league, you finished 15th last year, you're ridiculously inconsistent, you could lose this game 7-0, you could win it 2-0. Well, you know what? When you're inconsistent, some people are going to say you're going to lose. Prove us wrong. Prove us wrong. So, why have I gone with this team with Amorim? Let me know your thoughts. I think Mason Mount's going to start. I think that's absolutely a given. I actually do think there is a little bit of a niche sort of take here that he might not play Sesko. Whoa, that's going to cause problems in the chat. He might not play Sesko. He might use Cunha as a false 9 and really pack that midfield out, because obviously it's going to be a back 5. This is not a 3-4-3. This is a back 5. So we will see Yoro, Shaw and De Ligt defending very, very deep. We'll see Delo and Dorgu playing very, very deep. Obviously, I think Bruno and Casemiro will sit as well. We're basically going to be a back 7, and we're going to wait for them to attack us and try and counter-attack. Mason Mount will come into that midfield as well. So at times, I can see us having everybody behind the ball. And that's why I was thinking, I think he will start Sesko, and that's why I've gone with Sesko in the team. But it wouldn't surprise me if he went with Cunha in there. But because Cunha's been away with Brazil, I think he will go with Mount and Sesko and Mbeumo. In fact, there was an interesting story today that he might go with Agate, because Agate trained today and Casemiro didn't train today. So it's an extra day of training, etc. Look, you know what? There's conflicting stories about Agate. Obviously, we've had this story coming out this week that he was one of the players that Amorim had a go at. But that might have been because he likes the player and he wants him to do better. Ben Jacobs was on the show this afternoon saying it's weird about Agate because he really, you know, going against the grain, Amorim really does like him. So maybe he would throw him into a game like this, a little bit more mobility. But I think that if you're expecting United to go there and play good football, like we did against Arsenal, remember that was the opening game of the season. Arsenal sort of sat back a bit. We were at home. This is Anfield. It will be a cauldron of noise. There will be pressure. And I think quite rightly, the wise move is to sit back and counter. A lot of people saying, where's Ahmad? Well, you know what? I think it's interesting about Ahmad because I think Ahmad, I can't see him not picking Delo. So unless he puts Delo left wing back and puts Ahmad right wing back, I can't see Ahmad starting the game because we're going to be defending a lot. I mean, realistically, you could play Ahmad where Mount is and have them as the front 3, but I think I'd love to see Ahmad playing. Esev says got to have Ahmad instead of Delo. Yeah, Yeah, I do agree, but it's Anfield, it's away, and they will be putting crosses into the box. And I just think he'll go with a more defensive angle, to be honest with you. So, but he might put Delo left wing back and play Ahmad on the right. You never know with Amorim, but that's how I think he'll line up. How would I line up? Personally, I think Cunha in a game like this has to start. When you look at what he did last season for Wolves, and when you look at what Mbeumo did for Brentford, these are the sort of games where those sort of players get you goals out of nothing. I mean, for me, this is why we bought Cunha. I mean, Cunha and Mount are worlds apart in players. Like, Mount's been very, very good for United this season, very, very consistent, but they're not the same sort of player. Cunha can run at people. Cunha can produce something out of nothing. Mason Mount's more of a technical system player. I think in a game like this, where you're at Anfield and you're defending a lot, and you get the ball to Cunha and he spins into space, runs 30 yards and gets a shot off, puts it in the top corner or wins you a corner. Those sort of players in a game like this are really important. You know, as a centre-back, you see Cunha get the ball, turn and take a few people on, and you get a breather. Brilliant. And whereas Mason Mount, I think, is going to be more part of the defence. He's going to be more part of the organisation. And I think people like Cunha and Mbeumo are really important in a game like this. So I would play Cunha instead of Mount. I probably would play Agate over Casemiro. I know that's a risk, but I think Casemiro instantly is going to pick up a yellow card in the first 45 minutes, and then, you know, you can't play with 10 men in a game like this. Obviously, if Mazraoui was fit, I would like to see him play, but I don't think he will. And I think you've got to play Delo and Dorgu. I think you have to. I think you've got to play fullbacks in a game like this because, to be honest, if we lose this game 1-0, it's not Amorim out time. I mean, there will be people that, they're waiting. But what I'm saying is, if we lose this game 1-0, it'd be very disappointing. But in the grand scheme of things, Liverpool are here and we are here. So I think to go to Anfield, and what I'm trying to say is, if you go with Delo, Dorgu, and a clever midfield, you're basically playing a back seven. And that will be hard for Liverpool to break down. If you play Ahmad at right wing back and it goes wrong because he's not that good defensively and you can't get forward and you concede 3 or 4 goals, that becomes a bad result. That becomes a problem result. So I think, even though it goes against the way I want to see Man United play, I think logically, if I was in charge, I am going to pack the defence in the midfield and look to counter with flair players. I think it's just the obvious way to go because we're not at that level. That's my opinion. And as I said at the start of the show, Liverpool have won 3 games out of 3 at Anfield this season. I know they've lost their last 3, but at home they've won 3 out of 3. We've not won a game away from home. And we're wandering into this game, and it's almost like people think we're going to Anfield and we're going to win. And I sort of look at it and I go, apart from optimism, and he doesn't play in the midfield, where are you getting this from? I look at United's performances this season. Arsenal was good. Fulham was shit after the first 20 minutes. Burnley was a scrap that we won at the end. Chelsea was against 10 men. Brentford was a bloody nightmare. And Sunderland, we played well. So I don't see the performance that people are seeing here. I mean, I want to be shocked by it. I want to go, wow, I didn't see that. But, and Man City as well. Yeah, good for 20 minutes. Got absolutely battered. It could have been 6. I mean, I remember watching that Man City game at 2 or 3-0, and they were having chance after chance, and I thought this could end up being 6. So my eyes are wide open to the inconsistency of Manchester United, and I do worry about people thinking we're going to go there and get a result and win. I was talking about a draw over the international break, but I actually think we're going to lose. And if that's a jinx, I'm more than happy. Nick P says, I worry about Cunha. Been thinking this for weeks now, but he feels a bit like the odd man out, the one most droppable, even though he's super talented. Yeah, I sort of do. I mean, I don't think it's that point yet, Nick, but I do sort of find myself in the middle of October sort of going, why is Cunha being dropped for Liverpool away? Why is Cunha in the middle of October the player that's the odd one out? Why is Cunha now not an instant starter for Manchester United? And it does worry me a little bit because I sort of go, this is exactly what we bought him for. I mean, did we not scout Wolves? Have we not scouted this player? He literally is the player that in a game like this gets you something out of nothing. and he'll be on the bench for the last 20 minutes. And I don't understand what we've bought him for then. I really don't. You know, it's, again, if Ahmad's not playing right wing back, I sort of wonder what we're doing with Ahmad as well. Like, we could have a situation against Liverpool where Ahmad and Cunha are sat on the bench, and I'm looking at that bench and going, but they're two players I'd be building our future around. But, you know, I don't know. It's still early days, but I think Cunha, I mean, you know, he was our first summer signing as well. We need to be physical and disciplined in the midfield, says Emily Derry. But Cunha and Mbeumo running off Sesko could be a good outlet. Thank you very much, Emily. I'm afraid of Bruno in the midfield, says Wakas. Opposition teases him with the ball and his number 10 instincts kick in, leaving a giant hole in the midfield. Mate, I'm past that now. Do I like Bruno Fernandes in the midfield? No. Is it even worth saying I wouldn't play him in the midfield? No, because you're just wasting energy. I mean, I did it the first few weeks, but I think we've just got to accept that Bruno will play in the midfield now and hope that he performs. I think Maguire starts for the sake of corners, says MT90. I don't think we need Harry Maguire. I don't think we need Harry Maguire in this game. That's not to say you're not right. We have seen Harry Maguire picked ahead of Yoro before, but I wouldn't be playing Shaw and Maguire in a back three ever again. The lack of pace is a big problem, and that puts a lot of pressure onto De Ligt. I think Yoro has to be there for the pace. You're going to be playing against Ekitike or Isak, and they're quick. And I don't think it's worth picking Maguire just for set pieces when you've got someone like Sesko who can go with Van Dijk. So no, I wouldn't go anywhere near Maguire. Sesko has to start for hold-up play up the pitch, says Evan. I agree. I think this is a great point. I think we've seen it before. Again, it's a bit like what I was saying about Cunha. If you've got Cunha and you get the ball into his feet and he spins and he runs and he alleviates the pressure on the defence for a few seconds, that's brilliant. Also, as a defender, when you look up and you know you can hit a 50-yard ball up to Sesko, great. You've made 50 yards, you press higher up the pitch, they've got to come at you again. Playing out from the back, pressure. So I like that as well. Tom McBride says, no problem predicting a Liverpool win. Keep jinxing it. And Angus says, it's nanny. JB says, all this excitement and suspense leads to disappointment. I can predict Bruno will cost us and Amorim plays Shaw, Dalot and Maguire. Low expectations are the key. We can tell, well, I said at the start with a real positive smile on my face, we're back. But we also have to acknowledge that everything is back, not just Manchester United. There are a lot of people who are, I wouldn't say they're waiting for Manchester United to fail. It's an opinion, it's entitled and it's fair. There are people who don't rate Amorim and they are waiting for the mistakes to happen. There are people who want us to do well and you know, are waiting for the results to happen. So everything's back. Look, I don't think this game really, I mean, I would never call Liverpool a free hit, but it's sort of what the Glazers have done to Man United. This game has always been a massive game. Always been a massive game. I remember when United were brilliant under Sir Alex, we'd go and play poor Liverpool sides and they'd raise their game. I remember that knobhead Danny Murphy scoring goals at Old Trafford when they weren't very good. I remember going to Anfield when we were brilliant and they weren't very good, and it was always a nervy game. So Liverpool always gave us a good fight, even when we were brilliant, and they weren't so good. But we just don't seem to get the memo on that. Very rarely do we get the memo against Liverpool that this is our biggest rival, and even though they're better than us, we should be doing better. I mean, look, how many tonkings have they given us in the last 10 years? I mean, I sort of run out of examples. But look, I would like to believe that the players get it. I would like to believe Amorim gets it. And I would like to believe that we will go there and give as much as we can and leave nothing behind. But unfortunately, we have seen time and time again that we don't seem to get the memo about Liverpool. It always seems to be the other way these days. So hopefully we can. We need to start showing some character. We do tend to do well against the better teams. And I was thinking a draw. You know, I've seen us go there. Was it Ten Hag when we went there the first time after the 7-0? And everyone was predicting it again. And we, you know, they had a lot of shots, but we got a 0-0. So I can see that playing out. But, you know, I've got to say, logically, I think it might be a disappointing game. But let me be clear. I don't think this is the sort of game that you lose and you start chanting Amorim out, because it's Liverpool. They're top of the league. Well, they're the champions. It's at Anfield, and everybody knows they're way better than us. So in some ways, Amorim can only take the positives from this. If he can get a draw, it's a great result. If he can get a win, it's an incredible result. If he loses, it's disappointing, but most people would say, well, I'd expect us to lose to Liverpool. So, you know, that's the mentality you've got to go into it with the game. Like, a lot of people are expecting us to lose. Therefore, there's 2 results that get a big positive. Go and get it. Unless you get beat 5-0, like Fenke says, in which case, yeah, I mean, you can lose in a way where it becomes a problem, of course. But we shouldn't be talking about that. It's unacceptable. I mean, that 7-0 never should have gone from 3-0. Like, we have to learn to lock down. Like Man City, the worrying thing about the Man City game was that the way we played at 3-0 down, how many other chances did they have? I mean, they missed some right sitters. It could have been 5, could have been 6. We have to learn to lock results down. Losing's not nice, but you've got to stop getting pumped. Like, you know, at 2-0, when you know the game's gone, shut it down, live to fight another day. We have had this tendency to, you know, turn a loss into an absolute mauling, and that we need to stop those things happening. And I think we've learnt the lesson there, hopefully. Rico says, hi Mark, everyone. Had 9 pints today to celebrate yesterday's result. Well, I am Irish. That's an appetizer to us. God bless you. Fair play, Rico. I mean, 9 pints, I think I'd be passed out these days. Absolutely. I Am Dan says, condolences to Kenya, to their former Prime Minister. I wasn't aware of that, I Am Dan, but condolences, yes. Are you open to moving your website to Square, says Siraj. Don't know what you're talking about. Absolutely no idea. Lee Cape Town says, we're dropping Cunha to shoehorn Bruno in this team. That's the only reason. A crap one, but true. What do you think, Mark? I don't think if Cunha's dropped on Sunday, does that shoehorn Bruno in? I don't know that Cunha could play in a midfield 2 either. I think that's too deep for him. So Bruno is taking Mainoo's spot. I don't think Bruno is taking Cunha's spot, because Cunha should be playing where Mount or Mbeumo is. Hi, Mark. Hope you're well. Maybe I'm against the chat here, but I would take a 3-0 loss to Liverpool any day. We're not there as a team. I mean, I wouldn't take a 3-0 loss. I think that's a little bit too much as far as I'm concerned. But, you know, give us your thoughts. Give us your thoughts. All this exciting and suspense to lead to disappointment. I can predict. I've done that one from JB. Sorry about that. Okay, just talking a few other bits as well, because it is a Thursday night show. It's an 8 o'clock show, so by all means get your comments in. There was a couple of things I wanted to talk about. Oh, Mazraoui. Mazraoui's back, but I think it's very, very, very unlikely that he will get thrown into a game of this magnitude without game time. So no, I don't think that Mazraoui will play. This was interesting from Ben Jacobs just about Mainoo, just because I was talking about it there with Bruno. Obviously, Bruno. Look, let's just be honest here. Bruno is stunting the growth of Mainoo, and that is Amorim's decision. I think sometimes people skirt around the issue when you can be blunt. Armed with evidence, you can be blunt. Bruno Fernandes in the midfield is stunting Mainoo's development at Man United. There's no two ways of putting it. It's an absolute fact. Bruno in the midfield is benching Mainoo. Bruno at 31, out of position, is benching a 20-year-old that we think could be part of our future and rebuild. But Amorim's making that choice. Bruno's not making that choice. Amorim's making that choice. I think from listening to Bruno, he wants to play as a 10. So, you know, that's where we are on that. So this is what Ben Jacobs had to say, because I thought it was a very good question by Beth to Ben Jacobs this afternoon on the 2 o'clock show about how basically from last January until July, it was all about Mainoo and a contract and how much we're going to pay him and when he's going to sign the contract. And it has gone really quiet. Well, this is what Ben Jacobs had to say. I think it's gone quiet because Amorim is challenging Mainoo to learn the system and to break in and adapt and improve. And Mainoo is waiting and seeing what opportunity he gets before he's prepared to commit to something. So I'm not aware of anything developing with a contract extension, but in an ideal world, we mustn't forget that he wants to play for Man United, and Man United are open to extending Mainoo. So the whole contract thing has, of course, gone very, very quiet. But it's that catch-22 situation, isn't it? You have this gauntlet laid down by Ruben Amorim to say, you know, before we give him a contract, let's see if he can win a place in this team. And then you've got Mainoo going, before I sign a contract, I want to know if I've got a future in this team. And you sort of look at it and you go, how does that change? So I think we're all fully aware in January, if nothing changes, Mainoo will again ask to go on loan. And United probably will again say no. But as someone was saying before, it's annoying in the predicted lineup that Bruno's there. He shouldn't be there. But I think I speak for some people here. You're probably the same as me. When I'm doing the predicted lineup or I'm doing the team that I would pick, I just don't see any point in not putting Bruno in the midfield because it's just going to happen. And if I think that, and some of you think that, Mainoo must be thinking that. He must look at it and go, whilst Bruno Fernandes is fit, I'm not playing games. I know, okay, occasionally he might put him as a 10 and I might get a start, but how many number 10s has he got? Mount, Ahmad, Mainoo, Mbeumo, Xerxes, Cunha. He's got 5 number 10s. Bruno's not going back into number 10 long term, so even if I get a start, I'll be out. So, honestly, unless Bruno Fernandes breaks his leg and he's out for 2 months, Mainoo's not getting a run in that team, is he? And Bruno doesn't get injured. So, it's one of those. I've sort of become, I mean, I'd never not discuss it if people want to discuss it, but it has become a bit of a redundant conversation because I think that's his position. That is his position. It's like Vincent Kompany picking Kimmich. He's going to do it every game he can, and he's going to put him every time in the midfield. And Amorim, probably against Bruno's wishes as well. I mean, I don't know whether anybody's listened to Bruno's interviews, but it definitely comes across that he's not totally happy in the midfield. But Bruno could well be thinking what we're thinking. I want to play as a 10, but that's just sort of the way it's going to be. Got a little bit about the ownership as well, but obviously I want to get in some of your comments here. Tom Campbell, thanks for your super chat. He says, Goldster, my old chestnut. I've never had roasted chestnuts by. You know that song? Chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Jack Frost nipping at your toes. It's too early for that. But anyway, I've never had roasted chestnuts. Don't know whether they're any good. Normalising defeat cannot be right for United, says Tom. Losses happen, but we go there with an intent to win. Bottom line standards. Yeah, I think you go into any game hoping you win. But I don't think we can go. I think the only look, you can go into a game intending to win, but how you approach the game to win, I think you've got to be switched on. I would go to Anfield intending to win by packing the midfield and the defence and counter-attacking at pace and exploiting space. I would be going to win that game like Crystal Palace would or Brentford would. I'd be going to win that game with 30% possession. I would be like, Liverpool are going to have 70%. They're going to attack a lot, but we're going to defend well, we're going to counter, and we're going to win. So I do agree with you, Tom. The intention to win can still be there, even if you're playing counter-attacking football. Emily Derry says, injury is the only way Bruno spends an extended run out of the team. I think if you drop him, he becomes the white elephant in the room, especially in terms of leadership. Yeah, I've thought about this before, Emily, and I'll pose the question to the chat. If for whatever reason, Ruben Amorim dropped Bruno Fernandes and Mainoo played, and he played really, really well, and the next game Bruno was dropped again, and Mainoo played really, really well, and then the next game Bruno was dropped again, now you know what happens. you know what happens. The press are making a huge story about it. It's not quite the same as what we had with Rashford because it's British and British media, but they would be on him. They would be on him all the time. Why is Bruno not playing? Why aren't you picking Bruno? 300 grand a week and you're captain. Why aren't you picking Bruno? So that's the problem we created. Like, I agree with Emily. The only way he stays out of that team for a long period of time is injury. Because even if you did give Mainoo that shirt, if he's fit, that becomes a massive problem for you. Every bloody press conference, every interview. So, yeah, I'm accustomed to the fact now that that's what we're going to see for the whole season. And that's why I'm absolutely convinced we'll get a roller coaster. Because if you're going to go with a midfield like that, you're not going to find you're not going to find consistency. How many goals have we conceded already because of our midfield? And we're only on game week 8. I disagree. Bruno has to play as a 10, says John. Not to call you irrelevant, John, but this is the conversation that we've had many a time, and it's not going to happen. How long until the players complain they're being played out of position, or do you think they're not bothered, says Faisal? Well, who's being played out of position? Bruno's being played out of position. Casemiro's a midfielder. Delo and Dorgu are fullbacks who can play as wing-backs. Shaw, Delit and Yoro are all centre-backs. Lammens is a goalkeeper. Sesko is a striker. Mount is a 10. And Mbeumo can play as a 10 or out wide. So it's only really Bruno out of position. I'm not having the system conversation again. Where's the Christmas jumper tonight? I was going to wear the Christmas jumper tonight, Christian, but we're sponsored by Boohoo Man, and they don't do our Christmas jumper, so I thought it was a bit wrong to do that tonight, so I'll do it tomorrow. Thank you very much for your super chat. No Cost of Sugar says, I'm not saying screw the system, I'm saying screw formation. It swaps a centre midfielder for a centre-back. I'd rather run 2 centre-backs than bench one of Mainoo, Bruno or Mount. Well, we did speak about this before. If you want to talk about the deficiencies of a 3-4-3, you lose an attacker. You do lose an attacker for a defender, because if you look at that system next to me, if we were playing 2 centre-backs, let's say we were playing Delit and Yoro, Luke Shaw can become another attacker. So, you know, visually, you can see the problem with the 3-4-3 is that if your wide players are fullbacks, you're playing a back 5 and you have to lose an attacker. Now, if that's a 4-3-3, Dorgu, Delo, Yoro, Delit, Casemiro, Bruno, Mount, Cunha, Sesko and Mbeumo. So we spoke about this a year ago when Amorim came in. It's a great system if your wide players are wingers. It's a great system if your wide players are wingers. But if your wide players are fullbacks, you lose an attacker because you've got 3 centre-backs, 2 fullbacks. You know, that's an extra defender and 1 less attacker, which is why sometimes you're there going, how do I get Ahmad in? When is the charity day, says Chance? Oh, now you've got me. Is it the 15th? Something like that? It's the middle Saturday. I tell you what, the charity show is really coming together. Got some really... We've gone up a gear for the charity show this year. So every year we do a charity show for people with terminal and serious illness. We raised 50 grand in a day last year, 50 grand in a day the year before. We've done over 200 grand all together over the years. It's an all-day charity stream. But this year, we've pimped it up a little bit. We've got some really good stuff going on as well. Beyond playing a bit of FIFA and all that shit, we've got some really good stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. Get involved. Put it in your diary. Lee Cape Town says... no, I've done that one from Lee. Showtime 10 says, hi Mark and the United Stand community from Houston, Texas. It's my first super chat, so don't be too critical, but I'm curious. I know it's off topic. He's not on United's radar, but do you think Jude Bellingham could work in Amorim's system? Well, big shout out to Showtime 10. It's always nice to have a first super chatter because we get to hear from you. Jude Bellingham at Man United? Yes, sir. That's not stupid. Unless you've mistyped and meant to put Jobe Bellingham. Of course, I think Jude Bellingham at Man United would be a good player. I mean, look, Mason Mount, Jude Bellingham's better than him. I also think Jude Bellingham could play where Bruno is better than that. I quite like Bellingham a little bit deeper in the midfield anyway. So, but you're talking about a Real Madrid player here. I think he'd be a very good player for Man United, but it won't happen. Senor David says, to think we could have got Caicedo, Diaz, Alvarez, Lema if we'd only listened to Ralf Rangnick. Time really is the ultimate judge. Cheers from Colombia. Yeah, well, you know what? Just to answer that Rangnick thing, because occasionally it does come up. The interesting thing about Rangnick is the list was endless. You mentioned names like Caicedo, Luis Diaz, Alvarez, Lema. These were 4 players that were 100% on the list of Ralf Rangnick. Let's not forget Vardiel was another one. There was a few. There was a few on that list. But you're right, Senor David. The biggest problem with not listening to Ralf Rangnick was that was 3 years ago. So if we'd started this journey 3 years ago, where would we be today? We'd probably be... Nobody ever says this. People just say, we made a mistake getting rid of Ralf Rangnick. He recommended a load of players that we could have got that are now doing really, really well. He recommended open heart surgery, which would have been a great thing. And I think all those things are true. But it also would have happened 3 years ago. Like, he recommended Vardiel to Man United. Vardiel is an established player in the Premier League at Man City, and he feels like he's been here for ages. That's how long ago the Rangnick era could have started. And the big mistake with Rangnick was not bringing him in as the sporting director. He didn't want to be the manager. Not bringing him as the sporting director and the players he was recommending and the players he was recommending to get rid of, it would have been transformative. And we'd be 3 years down the road. So some people think in 3 years' time, Sir Jim, we'll be competing for the Champions League and competing for the league. Imagine if we'd done the Rangnick thing 3 years ago, where we'd be today, right now, today, October the 16th, 2025. Where would we be today if we'd done that Rangnick thing 3 years ago? And that's the annoying thing, because we'd be 3 years into that journey. And you think of all the money we've spent since then, all the mistakes since then. But some people still won't have it. There are people in the media that still rip the piss out of Rangnick. I'll be Amorim out if Lammens doesn't start, says DV. I'm actually very grateful, DV, that you've brought that up, because I did wonder whether somebody would bring this up tonight. Right. What is it about some people that think that Lammens is going to not play this game? It started after the Sunderland game. People started going, do you think he'll pick Lammens against Liverpool? Oh, he better pick Lammens against Liverpool. And I'm sort of like going, no. When a goalkeeper is given the shirt in a big Premier League game, that's it. If they do well, that's it. It's your shirt. Goalkeeping, it's very much like that. If you're given an opportunity in a big game and you do well, and the previous goalkeeper's a bit dodgy, that's it. It's not like he's come in for Peter Schmeichel or David De Gea. He came in to a position where we've been crap for 2 years. He did really, really well. So he plays against... if he doesn't start on Sunday, I'll be stunned. And I mean, like, it'd be like Bruno not playing. That and people go, oh, shut up. No, I genuinely think if Lammens doesn't start on Sunday, it would be as big as dropping Bruno, because it would be nonsensical. He has to start that game. He will start the game. I wouldn't worry about it. Would Rangnick have been hired by the current board, says Tom Grant? I mean, I don't know. The feedback about Rangnick, and you can take it or leave it, was that the reason they got rid of Rangnick was Murta and Arnold, because he was sat there for weeks basically slating how bad the club had been run. And although they brought him in to do that, they didn't like that he said it publicly, so they got rid of him. If we need wingers to be wingers in system, why not put Mbeumo and Ahmad out wide, Casemiro and Mainoo in the midfield, and Cunha and Bruno behind the striker, says Jack. Oh, I mean, mate, if you put Mbeumo and Ahmad as the wing-backs in that system, I'd love it. But also, you've got Ahmad marking Salah and Mbeumo marking Gakpo. It's, are we ready for that? I think you can get to that point, but I don't think we're ready for that. The media always talking about Man United. Bruno getting dropped will be used heavily against Amorim, even if the performance of the team is the same, says Honest Thoughts. And also, Garfield, thanks for your finger up. Don't know where you're putting it. Also, if Amorim drops Bruno, is dropping his favourite player and the most influential player in the club. It's a very dangerous thing for a manager to do. Very dangerous. I think Bruno Fernandes at Man United is probably more powerful than Odegaard is at Arsenal. You know, he's probably on a par with someone like Van Dijk at Liverpool. Like, he's massively powerful. You drop him, you better know what you're doing, because it would bounce back very, very bigly on the manager. Don't be sure when we see Binder in net because he has more experience. I'd start Lammens. Side note, I've been watching for years. I love the community. This is Milo. Look, mate, maybe there is something in it. Maybe there is something in that, but I would find it preposterous, incredible, and ridiculous if he drops Lammens for Binder. Imagine if he drops Lammens for Binder and then we lose. You're just putting, you may as well get a bucket of crap, walk outside and tip it over yourself. Like, it's just, there's no point, especially in a game like this. Like, I think we're going to get beat. Everyone would acknowledge we're massive underdogs. For Lammens, it's a win-win. You're expected to lose as long as you don't make a stupid mistake, and he doesn't look like the sort of goalkeeper that struggles with nerves. You know, you could get beat 3-0 and he could be man of the match. So, no, I just don't see... I don't see why you would do it. But then again, it doesn't mean it wouldn't happen. But as a manager, you're just putting pressure on yourself. Of course you are. Anyway, I did promise I would talk to you about the sale a little bit. So this was with Ben and Beth this afternoon, Ben Jacobs on the United Stand. He said, within the United Arab Emirates, one company in particular is involved in the talks about Manchester United. International Holding Company, IHC, they've been part of talks to put together a prospective UAE-based consortium. Now, look, I feel like chicken tonight. I didn't have chicken tonight. I feel like there is two stories going on here. There is this determination from Manchester United to get this stadium up and running, and when that happens, I just don't see why you'd sell the club. If you start building it, why would you sell the club? But before it starts being built, if there is going to be a move from any prospective sale, now is the time to do it. So the only thing I would say is that whilst it's still being spoken about, of course there is hope. I'm a cynic like everybody else, and I don't think it will happen. But I will say that whilst it keeps being spoken about, there is hope. Share prices started to dip a little bit now, by the way. It was high of $18. It's now dropping down to $17.80 at the moment. So stabilising, not going up. Do you honestly think we'll get a sale? No. I don't. But whilst it's still being spoken about, who knows? What was your score prediction, Mark? Well, look, I've gone with the Liverpool win. I was and did say after the Sunderland game and for the next, across the international break, I felt we'd come away with the result. I still think that's massively possible. But I also have to be honest that on That's Football, I do a show against Robbie called Win, Lose or Draw. So if I say it's a draw here, I know tomorrow I'm going with a Liverpool win because I need the points. So I'm going to be consistent with what I'm going to say on Win, Lose or Draw. I'm going to say a Liverpool win. I'm going to follow my head and not my heart. But I have a feeling this will be a low-scoring game, and that plays into our hands because low-scoring goal... If somebody said this is going to be a high-scoring game, I'd go, oh, shit. We're going to get pumped like a bloody hot airbed, aren't we here? But hot airbed. But I think it'll be a low-scoring game, and therefore you think, ooh, could we snatch a 1-0? Could we get a 0-0? I think Liverpool will win, and I think Liverpool will win by a goal. So I'm going to say 2-1. 2-1 to Liverpool. But remember, it was a horrific weekend of VAR in the final week before the Premier League closed down. And Michael Oliver is the referee. I think this game is going to be a real battle for us. And I wouldn't be surprised if we got robbed in one way or another. Maybe a dodgy penalty, maybe a deflection, a handball, something like that. You know, you can't account for those sort of things. But I do think it will be a low-scoring game. And I think that we will lose. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, bloody hell, how many games have we lost over the last 12 months? Predicting a lot. I mean, if somebody had the stats, I don't know, but I guarantee that over the last 12 months in the Premier League, what's our win? Well, I know what it is. It's below 30%, isn't it? So if you predict Man United are going to lose, you're probably not far off being 50% chance, are you? So I think in a game like this at Anfield against Liverpool, it's going to be tough. And as I said, like, they've won all their games at home this season. We've not won away from home this season. We've only scored 2 goals away from home this season. I know we've only played 3 games away, but Man City, Brentford and Fulham, I'd expect us to have won one of those games, and we haven't. So Anfield, based on what we've done this season, I think already we're looking better at home, but we seem to be struggling away, which is why I'd love us to get something here, because we've got 3 away games in our next 4. And I think if you can go to Anfield and get something, psychologically, that would be really good for the team going into the Forest and Spurs games. But maybe this season, we're going to be crap away and good at home. As long as you win your home games, we'll be in a much better position. J. Dot, hope you're doing well, says, Mark, I think I've started COVID-25. Please pray for me. I feel very sick. I think I might have had it a few weeks ago. So, yeah. We'll see what happens with that. Keep us informed, J. Dot. Get plenty of rest. Plenty of rest. It's really important. OTG says, I wouldn't mind another tie like last season. Was that what you got for Christmas? Or, oh, you mean a draw? Yeah, of course. I knew that. Difference between buyers from UAE and investors from Dubai is that owners from Dubai don't watch the Flintstones, but owners from Abu Dhabi do. Says Buggy. Whoosh. If we need to be... I've done that one. Bees says, don't understand the Mainoo hype still. Has he suddenly gotten new legs? Because Bruno and Casemiro are faster, despite being much older. Plus, they offer more creativity and experience. We need new midfielders. Mainoo can't cope, says Bees. I tell you what, I think this is such a wrong argument, right? I see it all the time. Mainoo isn't even that. He's overrated. Bruno's actually better in the midfield than him. Casemiro's better in the midfield from him. He's too slow. Bruno and Casemiro are more creative and they're more experienced. Honestly, bollocks. So the Mainoo I saw making his debut season at places like Goodison Park and St James's Park as a holding midfielder against experienced midfielders and played really, really well, that didn't happen. The Mainoo that was starting for England in the Euros, that didn't happen. The Mainoo that was scoring that winner against Wolves at Molyneux, that didn't happen. I've seen Mainoo under Ten Hag look like he's going to be one of England's best midfielders. So I disagree he's too slow. I disagree that he's not creative. And I disagree that he's not better than, Bruno and Casemiro, because I think he is. I think the big problem is he's had the confidence knocked out of him at 19 years of age. I know he's 20 now, but it's been going on for a year. He's had the confidence knocked out of him. He's been sat on the bench by 2 players that one's past it and one doesn't even play in the midfield. And confidence is a big part of being a young player. So he's got no confidence. He's not being nurtured. And also, it's very difficult for a player to get, he started against Grimsby. Why didn't you do well there? Yeah, I started against Grimsby with a goalkeeper that gave them a 2-goal lead and a load of other people that, like me, have got low confidence because we know the manager doesn't really want us. So I think if you give Mainoo... I remember Van Gaal doing this with Januzaj. He basically picked him 4 games in a row. And it didn't work in the long term. But you could tell Van Gaal was like, half an hour or 1 start isn't enough for a 19-year-old. I have to give him a run in the team so he can learn from mistakes and become consistent. until we give Mainoo a run in that team, I don't know why people judge him. Like, they see cameos and they go, oh, he's giving the ball away there. Oh, he's too slow. Give him the confidence, give him the opportunity, and I'll watch him blossom. And that's exactly what Ten Hag did. And unfortunately, at Man United right now, the environment is not there for him to blossom. He's being shut away in the dark. So you can, I think there's a really good player there. And as somebody said the other day, if Mainoo was starting for Brighton, doing really, really well, he'd be a name you'd be talking about in this chat for Man United to buy to solve their midfield problem. And that's the scary thing. I believe there's a really good player there. I just think we've mismanaged the situation to a point where we had this really exciting player who was playing every week and was getting better and better and better. And we basically chopped his legs off and thrown him away. And now he's gone back to square one. It's like playing snakes and ladders. Mainoo was climbing that board. He was, finishing line was in sight. And then he's thrown a 3 and he's gone down the snake right down to the very bottom again. And, that's demoralising. It's demoralising. It's like, you imagine you go to work, you do really, really well, you fly in, and then someone says you've got to go right back to the start now. Why? Because the new guy wants you down near the start, you've got to work again. And you go, what do you mean I've got to work again? I've done it all. I've done it all. Well, you're back down there again, you've got to prove a point. Amorim's not wrong for doing it, but put yourself in the mindset of Mainoo. You've worked your way up. Everyone's saying, you're in the England team, you're in the Man United side, you've worked your way up. Suddenly, new guy comes in, back down, you've got to do it again. And you sort of go, why hasn't he got to do it again? Why hasn't he got to do it again? Why have I got to do it again? And, yeah. I don't think he's slow and overrated, John. I think you're slow and overrated with a comment like that. Ryan T, come on United. It's easy to say a player's slow and overrated when they're playing 20 minutes here and there and they're not fancied by the manager and they know that they're not going to start the next game. I'll stick by it. I think if we gave him a run in the team, there's a good player there. But I actually think the same with Agate. I'm not going to change my opinion on this. I would rather go with Mainoo and Agate and give them 5 games than go with Casemiro and Bruno. Yes, they'd make mistakes, but I think they get better and better. If Maguire, Dalot and Shaw start, we're losing this one simple. Dalot, I think, will start, Maddison. Shaw definitely will start. I'd be surprised if Maguire starts, definitely. The only chance Dalot doesn't start is if he puts him at left wing back. If he puts Ahmad at right wing back. But even then, I think he'd play Dalot. Look, there's 2 things that sort of worry me about this Liverpool game. Number 1, we're playing Liverpool. Number 2, he might throw a couple of curveballs. Now, some of you, I think, are worrying wrongly about Lammens. I think Lammens will start. Some of you, I think, are worrying wrongly about Maguire. I don't think Maguire will start in a back 3 with Luke Shaw. The 2 that worry me a little bit, Sesko not starting, and he goes with Cunha, Mount and Mbeumo as a front 3, which doesn't make sense because Sesko is a focal point for the long ball, is a release. Or Dalot at left wing back because he thinks Dalot against Salah is better than Dorgu. I think that's a possibility. Because then you can start Ahmad on the right. You can still pick Dalot and play him on the left. And I wouldn't be surprised if he went with Dalot left wing back. Which I will be going, oh my God, please, no, no, no. But I just think he might do it for the old experience against Salah. But I would be saying again, like with Cunha, why did we buy Cunha if we're not using him in a game like this? Why did we buy Dorgu if we're not going to develop him in a game like this, where he's actually doing very well this season, Somebody says they totally agree with Aaron G. Can we keep composed now after giving early goals? Well, we conceded the early goal against Man City. I think we can bounce back from goals conceded, but I think in games like this, as we saw in the Etihad, you concede first in a goal like this, in a game like this, the crowd really ignites. And if Liverpool were to score first against us early, you know that becomes a pressure cooker because it's Man United. We've lost our last 3. We've scored early. We're back. And then the players feed off that and it becomes a big problem both ways. We've got to either score first or not concede early. Those are the 2 non-negotiables. I think if we concede early, I'd be very surprised if we came back. But, you know, if you do, great. Great. Come on United, says Ryan T. All the players who have left and played well elsewhere are players we didn't need. If Mainoo leaves and plays well, it will hurt as we need a midfielder, says Mount Rushmore. Good point. Good point. Well, look, it's exciting to have football back. It's been a long international break. It has been a long international break, and I'm glad it's out the way. It's always the worst one in October. I think the September one, as I said, transfer window doesn't close until Monday, so it shortens it. The last one in November, we have our charity stream in the middle, and it's the last one. So this middle one is good to be out the way. Got 4 very, very big games coming up for Manchester United, and it starts with Liverpool on Sunday. I'm very excited. If you didn't watch live, get your comments in. If you did watch live and you want to put some comments in and come back, please do. We are tomorrow, Amorim's press conference. We will be reacting to that on the 2 o'clock show. I'm back with you for the 10 o'clock show, and we have an 8 o'clock show for you tomorrow as well. Yes, we do. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care, stay safe, and loved the conversation with you as always. Football is back, and to that I say good night. Take care. Speak to you in a bit.